right, so this is recording now, so we'll get it going. So thank you all for coming out today. Obviously, I heard it's your first official organizational meeting of the week, of the semester rather. For those of you that don't know me, and I think a lot of you I met for the first time, I'm Brandon Smith. I'm the Human Resources Manager for CBIZ New York, KA Consulting, and 2 offices in Easton, or in Maryland rather, 1 in Easton and 1 in Cumberland. So I've really covered the entire Mid-Atlantic region for CBIZ as an organization. I graduated from Rutgers College. Our football team is terrible. Don't poke me about it. I get it. I was a psychology and religion major. I graduated right as the recession happened. Realized that they don't hire psychology and religion majors. And so I ended up going back to school to complete my master's degree in HR management. And ever since, I've been working in the accounting world. I started over at Wilson Company. Some of you may recognize the name. I'm sure they'll be coming through at some point this semester. They've got a good relationship with FDU. And then I realized I wanted something bigger, something that I could really sink my teeth into, and so I ended up moving over to CBIZ. I was also a student athlete. So, quick overview on CBIZ. We are an organization that's really nationwide. We're the 10th largest accounting firm in the country. We've got 5,000 associates spread over about 100 locations. At this point, it's 106 locations, ranging from up here in Boston down to here in Boca, all the way out west to California. And I know we're starting to get involved more in Texas, more up in the Pacific Northwest, so a lot going on. Really, when you consider CBIZ, we've got really 2 primary practices, what we call our financial services practice and what we call our benefits and insurance practice. For you guys would all be associated or interested in the financial services group, so that's where we house our accounting and tax practices, our audit practice, our litigation support practices, our valuation practices. Any type of advisory group will really fall underneath that grouping. We also have a group that we call benefits and insurance. They're on the other side of the business. They make up about 1/3 of the business. So they do a lot of broker sales. They do property and casualty insurance. They do retirement planning services. In that domain, it is really working with pension plans with unions. So quite a bit going on within the organization. Financial services makes up about 2/3 of the company. Benefits and insurance makes up about 1/3. We also have a couple of national practices. As I mentioned, I'm the HR manager for KA Consulting. KA Consulting is actually a New Jersey-based healthcare consulting practice that works with hospitals across the country to either facilitate their revenue collections or to find new revenue sources for that organization. But really, I talk to you guys from New York perspective, at least for today. Some of you may be interested in Philly, so we can talk afterward. We can go offline off with that one. But I talk from a New York perspective. So this is a little out of date now. I'm realizing that we got to update this a little bit because we've got some cool awards going on. 2018, we won the Forbes America's Best Midsize Employer. We won that again in 2019. In 2019, we also won Fortune's Best Employer in New York City, which was a big deal for us. We're also the best employer in the country. We won Healthiest Employer in New York City, which was another cool award for the company to bring home. So a lot of us spend a lot of time trying to create a culture and environment where we are being recognized by our staff for these awards. All these awards are staff voted based on various criteria, including culture, including benefits, including compensation. Really, you name it, it falls in there and it gets measured, and we've been recognized as one of the leading employers in the entire industry in the entire Northeast. We always like to talk about our staff to managing director ratio. A lot of you are accountants, a lot of you want to go into public accounting. We are a publicly traded company, and so with that, we kind of have to trade things around. So we call a managing director what any other accounting firm would call a partner. They're the people that are responsible for leading the servicing of accounts. So with that, we've got 22 managing directors within our office, and having that kind of leadership, having that ability to work directly with partners quite a bit is really helpful in our world. We work in quite a few industries. Apparel and consumer products is our big one. That's where we've always been built out historically. So we work in the Garment Center. We're right in Bryant Park. And with that, comes working with a lot of very well-known, well-respected organizations in that type of area. We're going to work heavy into software and technology, especially software as a service. That's our big play at the moment, along with private equity and hedge funds. A lot going on with private equity within our entire organization. We've got a lot of tie-ins. We had our partners out on Long Island earlier this week playing golf with a bunch of private equity heads and people out there, so a lot going on within that. And then obviously it's New York, there are a ton of rich people, so in the tax practice there are quite a few high net worth individuals that we work with directly. Historically, we were acquired by CBIZ about 10 years ago now, just over 10 years ago. We were a group called Mahoney Cohen, built our name, built our credibility within apparel. CBIZ came in, looked at several accounting firms within the New York area, and they ended up looking at us and bringing us in the fold. So primary services that work out of our office are audit, accounting, tax, what we call private client services. So it's a group that works directly with our high net worth individuals, and they cover their entire suite of services from picking up dry cleaning to cashing payroll checks to handling their credit card payments. So anything that we can do within them, we do for them. And finally, we also have transaction advisor that gets run out of our office. It's a group headed up now based out of Philly. They work directly with private equity groups, working really on the buy side of transactions that are occurring and making sure everything's appropriate. And we also have a group that is based, that we call CBIZ Corporate Recovery Services. This practice is based in bankruptcy and restructuring, so they help guide organizations, community estates through various types of restructuring. Really good group, nationwide. They're based out in New York, but we've got resources across the country that work in that area. One of the things we always want to talk about is great people, great place. So great people, great place is our guiding philosophy within CBIZ. It's our way of saying we want to bring in great people, provide you the best training possible, but we also want to create an environment that you guys want to be in. So from that perspective, we do quite a bit. So you're going to note that we've got 24 hours in the CBIZ Food Drive. What I mean by that is we allow employees in the New York office to volunteer for up to 24 hours for any cause that they may be interested in. And that's completely paid for, and you just show up, you give us the participation slip, and that was that. We also do a big food drive every year, and the food drive is a nationwide competition across CBIZ offices. All the food goes toward local food pantries that we partner with, so New York works with New York City Food Pantry, New York Food Bank rather, and with that we have raised over 1 million pounds of food as an organization over the last several years. So, yeah, 1 million pounds of food is the proper number on that, which is equivalent to about $200,000 in contributions across the entire organization. We also run a bunch of different annual events. We'll talk about a few of them. Some of them aren't on here, but I always like to recognize. So one of the organizations that we work with is a group called Kids Fashion Delivers. They help a lot in terms of disaster recovery. So they'll go into communities after the fact and help distribute food, non-perishable items, clothing, water. But one of the main things that they do is they work within shoes and socks. We always like to talk about our sock hop. The sock hop the sock is the number one garment that is needed after a natural disaster. People send shoes, people send underwear, people send water, people send food. Socks tend to be the most needed thing in terms of an event. So we did a sock hop. We collected and raised funds for several thousand pairs of socks. I forget the number off the top of my head, but that was just a small snippet of what we had going on. With Kids Fashion Delivers, we do a partnership every year with them where we go into the South Bronx. For those of you that don't know, South Bronx is probably the poorest congressional district in the entire country. And so that's 4 miles north of where our office is located, where we cater to literally some of the wealthiest people in the entire world. So for us, it's really our opportunity to go into a community and help, distribute items to people in need. So a lot of it's food, non-perishable items, so some clothing, some child's clothing, some toys, some children's books, a lot of different things. And to really be able to interact with the families is really rewarding for a lot of our employees because they've really never had the chance to experience anything like that. This was the year, I don't know how many Yankees fans there are in the room, but if you know the name Brett Gardner, this was the year that I yelled at Brett Gardner because he was packing a basket wrong for families. So they brought Brett in, they said, hey, help out, do some things. And he started loading things wrong, and I yelled at him for it. So that was my run-in with famous people. CBIZ Women's Advantage is another big organization within the company. It's our way of, it's our organizational development program for women in partnership with a lot of the male leadership within the offices and the entire organization. They also partner with Dress for Success. So Dress for Success helps collects and distributes women's professional wear as well as personal items to women in lower income situations that need a foot forward in their professional careers. And so a lot of the women that are pictured in this program actually have come up through CBIZ Women's Advantage and have become partners or leaders within the organization. So this person right here is our test practice leader. She is one of our tax managing directors. Fasika is a audit managing director. Both these women are directors. Donna right here runs our national trust and estate practice out of the New York office. So quite a bit going on within that as well. Corporate Challenge, really fun event. It's my favorite event of the year. How many people in this room run? Show of hands real quick. Okay. How many people, if you're over the age of 21, consume alcohol? Had to specify that. Well, this combines the best of both worlds. You run through, it's a 3.5-mile run through Central Park with a bunch of peers, a bunch of companies across the entire region, or city, I guess. And then we actually do a 2.5-hour open bar right after the fact. So it's like, hey, go run real quick, and then we're going to go out and drink a lot. I actually missed out on this photo because I was probably drinking at this point. No, so unfortunately this year, remember those big storms that we had right at the end of May? We had to cancel this event, and so we ended up just going to the happy hour instead. So I didn't have to run, still got the drink. I had a lot of fun that night. We do a bunch of other things as well, just to kind of talk about organizational, social events. So earlier this summer, we went to a Mets game, or a Yankees game. Last year, we went to a Mets game. Yesterday, we had rolled ice cream brought into the office, which is a pretty cool treat. That was our way of recognizing our employees for helping us win the Fortune Best Employer in New York City. Today, there were a bunch of cookies being distributed. We eat a lot, and apparently we drink a lot, which might be a problem. Or not. But really, I talked to Heather. Heather Brown is the campus recruiter. Some of you may have spoken with her. Some of you may have already seen this presentation, but we're going to do it again because I like giving this presentation. But obviously, we're going to be back here next semester. We'll do something else, just kind of help you guys along the way as you kind of work on developing your professional careers. So kind of starting from the top, let's talk about time management. Who here, we're going to keep our hands raised, so just keep them up from the very top. Who here plays a sport? Is a member of Greek life? Get another one. Is involved in an organization, including this one. Has an internship or a job, or does anything else besides school. I'm seeing hands everywhere. And that's important because obviously you guys are here to do school, but there are 8,000 other things that you can be doing with your time, including being here right now. You can be, working a part-time job, you can be interning, you can be in class, you could be drinking a White Claw because it's 5:30 on a Wednesday, or because your football team sucks and the Giants and Jets are terrible, and let's drink for that too. I have a drinking problem. Student athletes are going to love this one too. So really, we always talk about time management though, because there's a big transition that occurs when you move from your college career into your professional life. And so when we talk about college, you guys probably have a pretty set schedule. You know where you're going from day to day. When you know that you're going to have to work on this, you're going to have to go to this class, blah, 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 blah. I was always pretty good at that, and then I got into the working world, and everything changed. Because priorities change on a daily basis, on really a minute-to-minute basis. Anything can pop up. So we always talk about planners and digital calendars. Digital calendar is the way that I always keep track of what I have to do. I'll block off specific blocks of time within my calendars to work off of that. But it's really just my way of saying, okay, I need to take this amount of time, can't be contacted, can't be distracted. I'm going to focus on what I need to focus on right now. Unfortunately, that gets thrown to the gutter sometimes because a practice leader or CEO of the organization calls you at 2:55 today and says, hey, we've got an issue that we need to address. How are you able to help with this? And so right before I got into the car coming over here, I was looking at the presentation, getting ready to go over it. I made a note saying, hey, I want to change X, Y, and Z. And then one of my business unit leaders called me and said, we've got something that we need to talk about. Do you have the time? So I'm literally trying to make edits to this one. I'm talking to her. So best of intentions sometimes still get thrown out the window. So I really should have been better with planning this event, planning my presentation, thinking about what I wanted to say. But, I always come in here and know what I want to say. However, there is quite a bit that's going on within an organization when you come into it. So we spend a lot of time within our initial training periods talking about training on time management. This is obviously blocked off for you guys. So as we start people out, we do a lot of things as it relates to project management, understanding how to properly budget your time, how to properly allocate your time for the things that you're working on. A lot of it does come down to communicating expectations, understanding what the expectations are of the role that you're working in, of the assignment that you've been tasked with, and also being able to communicate upward and let the people know that sometimes the expectations that have been laid out are completely unrealistic. You're going to get to an organization, you're going to get to an audit, you're going to get to a tax return, you're going to find out that things have changed dramatically over the last year, and suddenly everything that was talked about last year is thrown out the window because this company has made 3 acquisitions and also sold a business unit, and what do we do to address all this? So quite a bit going on with that. So obviously, really the biggest thing that we always talk about in time management is being able to establish expectations up front, and then being able to go back and forth on that and let them know where things stand. Last thing I want to talk about really is time management. So with tools and software, there's something blocked off. So desk. How many of you have a desk that you work with specifically when you're doing homework, when you're doing schoolwork, whatever the case may be? Just tell me how you have. I'm going to ask for volunteers. How many of you have Post-it notes listed out there showing what you have to do for the week? What else do people use? Do you use your calendar? Are you having a planner that's set aside on that desk? For the people that don't have a desk, what are you doing? So let's kind of break those out real quick. People that use Post-it notes, why are you using Post-it notes? I saw a hand over here.
Because I'm crazy and have no, I mean, I do use Post-it notes because I feel like there has to be a better system, but they end up working. Okay. So I just use them.
Good response. I mean, one of the people that I used to work with, I would walk into the office every day, and she would be staying a little bit later than I would be, and she had all of her Post-it notes laid out on her desk, color-coded based on priority. So she would sit there every night for 20 minutes before she went home, just laying out, like, this is what I have to do over this period of time. So green, where we've got to do this tomorrow. The reds, where I'm going to stop doing this. Yellow is kind of somewhere in between. And then you had kind of priorities that were laid out. So Post-it notes is one way of doing it. People with planners, what are you doing? How are you laying your stuff out? I saw a hand over here.
With a planner, I see day to day, and if I have to reprioritize, I would do that.
Okay. How are you reprioritizing?
Based off of events that may just come up. So on like a Thursday, if it's something that's not so important, maybe I move it to the weekend.
Okay.
Take care of other things first.
So one of the questions I always ask during interviews, I'm giving you guys tips now, is tell me about a time when you had varying, I don't have the question in front of me, when you had varying things that you're working on, and someone comes to you and says, hey, I need to have this done immediately, but you're also knowing that you have to do something else that's also due in the near future. How do you balance your priorities, and how do you communicate off of that? And so that's one of the questions that I'll kind of lay out there, and we just kind of set it up just to see how you guys are working through that, just kind of from an organizational perspective. People that don't have dedicated desks. How are you handling your situation? How are you keeping organized?
I use a notepad and also my cell phone.
Okay.
I use the calendar feature in my cell phone to remind me of things. If we have a deadline, I'll set like a 2-day reminder just to get that done.
Good. I don't know what just happened, but something happened in my fantasy football league. So I'm hoping that's not Tom Brady being hurt. So obviously, I actually reached over here for a reason. I've got 2 cell phones. One is for my personal life, one is for my work life. Fortunately, when you join an organization, a lot of times they'll be paying for your second cell phone or for you to have your work information stored on your first cell phone. So that's one of the ways I keep organized because I'm all over the place on any given point in the day. I could be in New York, I could be at a college, I could be at my New Jersey office, I could be working from home. This is my way of really keeping in touch with everything that I've got to do for work. I also write things down because I'm old-fashioned and I didn't have a cell phone when I was growing up. So a lot of my stuff still does get written down in a planner as well, just to sort things out. But there is quite a bit that will be taught to you. You'll obviously be, when you come into an organization, they do provide you a lot of tools and software that you need to work through project management. So utilizing your Outlook calendar is going to be a big one, but for those of you that have had audit internships, obviously, or tax internships, you have workflows that are established and you're able to kind of keep track of where things are within your binders or within a return, and that's kind of how we are able to assist with people and kind of working on what they got going on. One of the things that we always talk about is audit travel. How many of you want to go into audit because you get to travel? 1, okay. Do you want to go to Iowa in the middle of the winter? I look behind you, I see 2 heads, she's like, no, I do not want to do that. The reality is within CBIZ, there's not a ton of travel. However, it's kind of however you want to approach it. You can obviously volunteer to be placed on travel jobs. We've got about 90% of our clients based in either New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut. So quite drivable, kind of get a handle on it. But we've also got some cool locations. So we have a client out in Amsterdam. We've got clients out in LA, down in Florida, down in Houston, really spread out across the country. But we also have clients that are based in Iowa and Nebraska. And you go to Iowa and Nebraska in the middle of the winter. And no offense to anyone from Iowa or Nebraska, but Iowa and Nebraska in the middle of the winter sucks. So I'm sure the student athletes will be like, hey, wait a second, I'm from Iowa. But really, we always talk about travel because those are hours that you're losing from your day. We've got people that are being sent out to really cool locations. Actually, we've got an inventory observation that needs to be done in the Caribbean because we've got diamond clients, and they all do a lot of their warehousing in the Caribbean, so that you go down and count diamonds in Bermuda or Barbados. So lucky them, because a lot of them will extend it into long-term vacations. The firm will pay for a part of it. But obviously losing time during that is critical because if you're in the middle of busy season, you've got to fly to Amsterdam, you've got to fly to Berlin. How are you approaching that? And so we always take the approach that says, hey, we're going to give you every tool that you need to be successful, including paying for hotspots, paying for Ubers, paying for pretty much anything that you could ever need in order to simplify your life from that perspective. Last thing I was talking about is just respecting others' time. Within project management, within time management, obviously you've got your own tasks that you've got to be concerned about. But most of you, I would say, have worked in group projects before. Show of hands, group projects. All right. Shocker of the day. So my next interview question, I'm just giving away my entire game plan at this point. Tell me about a time when you've been working in a group project and you have a group member that is being uncooperative. How do you handle it? What do you do? Being cognizant of working within your own thing is important, but also being cognizant of your team's time is important too. There will be times where there are going to be your superiors above you that need to be able to review work in order to advance it to the next stage and advance it into the partner review. Obviously, they're going to need your stuff, so you got to be able to communicate to them and let them know where things stand. So being able to respect your team's time is important. Clients hate when the auditors come. Hate. I've got a lot of friends that have worked in public accounting these days, but now I'm getting to the point in my career where a lot of the people that work in public are moving to the industry side, and they're working as controllers, they're working as accounting managers, they're having to work directly with the audit team. Being able to respect the client's time is important just because they've got to do their own job while the auditor is in town. So anytime you come to them asking a question, looking for something, is time you're taking away from them being profitable for their organization. Nobody likes the audit report. Audit report sucks. So being able to kind of understand what the client's needs are, being able to effectively work with them, either sending a day-end open items list, whatever the case may be, is important. And then obviously there are things that you do within your own groups that will impact groups within other parts of it. So I always include the team as the last point, because the team is not just the team that you're working with, but the team across the entire organization. If you're able to move your things faster, if you're able to balance things better, you're able to relieve pressure that may be impacting other engagements. And we always look at that as well. So always kind of understanding priorities and being able to meet the expectations of a team member, of a supervisor, and then kind of across the organization. That's kind of how we approach things. Questions on time management? All right. So obviously, why CBIZ? So I chose CBIZ for a number of reasons. We'll kind of go through my entire story. We'll go through a lot of people's stories. I didn't realize I wanted to work in public accounting. I always tell this joke whenever I do an interview, so you guys are going to get to hear it again if you're interviewing with me next week. If you had asked me what a public accountant was in high school, I would have laughed in your face because I wanted to be a lawyer, and that was my entire life goal. And then after 3 or 4 career changes where I realized, that wasn't going to work out in my life, I ended up in public accounting for a number of reasons. From an HR perspective, the career advancement that occurs is really second to none for people that are accounting majors, for people that want to pursue careers in accounting. Your career pathway is sped up significantly compared to people that go to industry right out of college, so I've always kind of found that to be cool. I found the dynamic of working across 4 or 5 different generations at this point to be a really cool thing, because I've got people in my office that are now 85 years old that are working with 19-year-old college interns and kind of working on the communication strategies between those groups and establishing expectations has been kind of a cool thing. But really the level of training and the level of career advancement you're going to get starting out in public accounting is going to be second to none for accounting majors. And then I always stayed in the middle market. Obviously, the Big Four is always going to have a big presence for accounting majors. But for me, the middle market made sense. It provided the opportunity to both have a work-life balance and provide an opportunity for growth, which was important for me. So when I say middle market, we're working with a lot of clients, somewhere between $5 million and $100 million in revenue. We are starting to work with some smaller public companies now as a New York office, but there's quite a bit going on within that. And then I always like to highlight culture. And, I feel that we've created a great dynamic within CBIZ. For those of you that go to other companies, and I always say this in your interviews, always look at the culture, look how people are interacting with one another when you go on office visits. If companies aren't inviting you on office visits, ask why you can't see the office, because it's really going to be giving you an insight into what we've got going on. When we invite people in for second-round interviews, we allow people to tour the office. We have you meet as many people as we can. We send you guys out to lunch with the group. We do as much as possible, and I know I'm hoping that a lot of you were able to come to the career fair last week, or the accounting meet and greet, whatever the hell it was called, and meet Andrew, or not, who was it? Karen and Don. Yes. Don was a FDU alumni, so I actually have Don out in another event right now, as was Karen later this week. But always ask about the culture, because it's an important aspect of anything that you've got going on. Priority, so we're talking about growth and development, so we always give people the opportunity to take on as much as they want to. We send you guys out to national training. So national training is the opportunity to go really across the country, interact with your peers, pick up the skills that you need to be successful in that role that you're moving into. But then national training is only a part of it. Being able to work on engagements, work directly with the staff people that you've been assigned to engagements with, kind of working on those informal mentoring relationships, all important aspects of what we've got going on within our organization. Just a little bit about what we've got going on within campus. CBIZ has really spent a lot of time building out our campus recruiting approach across the country. Last year we visited 81 universities with 75 career fairs, 62 events, 61 on-campus interviews. I did about an eighth of them all by myself, which was a cool experience, driving out. So, real quick, tomorrow's my birthday, so happy birthday, May. A year ago, I was actually driving up to the University of Albany to do an event, and it was the saddest thing ever because I got to the hotel and I was too tired to go anywhere else, so I went and ate my birthday dinner in a IHOP that was completely deserted, that was right next to the hotel. So I'm much happier being here and interacting with you guys and talking about CBIZ than it was just driving 3.5 or 4 hours to Albany. But like I said, campus is doing a lot within CBIZ. Hopefully a lot of you will have the opportunity to meet with people across our organization, whether it be me. Heather Brown is our campus recruiter for the market. We always are sending staff to different locations to interact with you guys. So we've got quite a bit going on from that perspective. So really exciting stuff. So for campus this year, actually for your campus, we actually just closed the interview application cycle. So if you are still interested in any of the opportunities that I'm about to talk about, let me know. I can probably talk to Heather and fill you in with an interview slot. Some of you may have already applied, so that'll be cool too. You can always see our jobs on cbiz.jobs. You can see everything that we've got available, get a sense of that. So, a few things. This year we're talking about our summer leadership program, what we call Career Academy across CBIZ. This was implemented in my office. This will be our third year going into it, but we've really picked up on different best practices from across the organization, whether it be in the Kansas City office, the Arizona office. Summer leadership program is just our pipeline to meet you guys at a younger age. We do have quite a few internships that come out of that. We had 15 people at summer leadership program this year. 6 of them have accepted internships with us for either the spring or the summer of next year. So in addition to our summer leadership program, which I encourage anyone graduating in 2022 to apply to, or there'll be 150 eligible in 2022 to apply to, we're also looking for tax interns for the coming semester. So within that, we're looking for people that will have the capacity to work 20 to 25 hours a week, that have an interest in tax, or that they're not sure where their interests lie and they want to kind of test things out. Unfortunately, all of our audit roles were filled by Career Academy participants. So for those of you that are interested, jump on Career Academy for next year. We're also interviewing for associate positions, so tax and audit associate positions. And we'll be interviewing for, well, I'm going to be interviewing personally for what we call for our corporate recovery practice, because they're also looking for an intern to work 20 to 25 hours a week. So for some of you, especially in the Madison group, getting out to New York City can be tricky at times, but we do have a lot of opportunities that are available. So going off of that, we're going to be interviewing out here next Tuesday. So I'll be out here with my colleague, Amy Grant. Amy Grant helps run the tax practice for CBIZ. So we'll be interviewing for those roles. We're going to be back doing another event later this semester. I think I've got to talk to Heather to confirm that that's the case. We're going to be out here next year talking about various things. So really a lot that we've got going on within CBIZ. For people that are interviewing next week, just kind of heads up, if you are selected for second round interviews, we're doing those in the middle of October. So there'll be a slight lag, but we'll be reaching out to you guys pretty quickly on that. And really, I just want to close out with any questions that you guys may have.
So what are some, I know you mentioned like the apparel and the technology, what are some up and coming industries that you guys are going into?
It depends on the office. That's actually a good question, and kind of gets back to really what's going on within CBIZ. So as I mentioned, CBIZ grows primarily through acquisition. A lot of different groups have different industries that we're working with. What I can tell you right now is that private equity and working with their various clients is the big up-and-comer for CBIZ. We're spending a lot of money investing in that area. We're investing in really all of our advisory practices, whether it be transaction advisory or workforce advisory. For those groups, we always advise people to get a couple of years of audit experience or tax experience. That way you've got kind of the basic skill set that you need to move into an advisory team. Outside of private equity in New York, we are starting to work with a little bit of pharmaceutical work, but really we're sticking to our core right now. Technology and private equity for our office are the two up-and-coming groups. They're growing significantly year to year. And I can see us getting into real estate in the near future. I know that's something that we're kind of eyeballing. We just don't have the skill set that we need at the top yet to do that. We're getting there though. And finally, I always forget to mention this because it's such a new group. We're also launching our national Korean practice out of the New York office. So the Korean market, the South Korean market, is one of the biggest. We're one of the biggest importers of Korean products. So being able to work with those types of organizations has been really beneficial. And we've realized that for middle market companies, the Big Four is kind of not being ignorant, just ignoring them. And so with that, we've got this really strategic approach that says we can go in and identify these Korean-led practices and kind of help them with what they've got going on within that. So I always forget about the Korean practice as well. Anything else? All right, thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Oh, Metro, yes.
Anybody have any questions?
Nope, wrong one. Definitely touched the button. Hold on. We got you now. Nothing down there?
No, we're good.
Awesome. All right. Well, really quick story then, because I realized I said y'all. That's not something that gets said in New Jersey. So I was out in Nashville, Tennessee recently with some of my coworkers. We were doing a conference, and I got flown out there and was working with them. And they all looked at me, and I was making fun of these kids from Philly because Philly accents are weird. Can anybody agree with me on that? Philly accent's weird. And they all looked at me and they're like, Brandon, you know you have an accent, right? I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I talk like a normal person. And they're like, no, bro, you talk really fast, but you also will twang everything. So you'll say y'all, you'll say all these crazy things. I'm like, man, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just trying to embrace the one CBIZ mentality where we're working with groups across the country. So if there's anybody in here that connected with me saying y'all, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Otherwise, that's it for you guys. And then I'll be here for a while if you guys have any individual questions.
If you guys haven't already, just sign in on the notebook back there.
Thanks, man.